Good evening and welcome to Prime Edition. I am Mboya. Our top stories tonight. The beginning of the end? Martha Karua criticizes the National Dialogue Committee's approach to the bipartisan talks. President Ruto urges the international community to invest heavily in realization of sustainable development goals. Bodies of a mother and her son found floating in a well shortly after both engaged in a quarrel in Kiambu. Many thanks indeed for joining as our sign language interpreter. Two of them, Susan Thuku and Brian Moraro, our socials at KBC Channel 1. Now, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition could be pulling from different directions, with key members of the coalition appearing to pour cold water on the ongoing bipartisan talks in a telltale sign of what could be simmering tensions in the opposition outfit. NARC Kenya party leader Martha Karua and Azimio's lead of legal and technical committee in the talks, Jeremiah Kioni, convened a press conference Tuesday appearing to suggest that they were no longer interested in the bipartisan talks. This despite a prohibition by the National Dialogue Committee to its members from poking holes on the ongoing talks. Giverson Minor opens our coverage.
Between the government and the opposition, the talks are now facing an as divisions rock the committee. The talks are not only threatened by lack of consensus between the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio sides, but are now threatened by sibling rivalry within the Azimio coalition.
He merely made a distinction. Today, here we are standing as Kamwene. You saw us on Friday standing as Azimio. We stand in different places.
Now Kenya party leader Martha Karua and Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, who also doubles up as the Azimio's lead of legal and technical committee in the talks, convened a press conference on Tuesday that revealed the soft underbelly of the opposition coalition. Karua and Kioni claim that the Kenya Kwanza side has repeatedly exhibited signs of non-commitment to the talks.
KK has not shown any signs of taking these issues seriously. The cost of living and the spike in fuel prices has spiked when the talks are supposed to be commencing to deal with those very issues.
At the resumption of the bipartisan talks on Monday, the committee co-chair Kalonzo Musyoka was categorical that the talks were on course and that the Azimio coalition was speaking from a united front. The remarks by Kioni appearing to disregard the committee's rule that forbid any castigation of the talks by its members in public.
Kama ni kusema tukae chini na tuheshimiane. Kama hakuna hiyo heshima, basi tuseme kimeumana. Hata Wakenya wengi wanashindwa tunafanya nini ile.
Embakasi MP Babu Owino is among the most outspoken MPs within the opposition ranks and has called on Azimio leader Raila Odinga to recall the Azimio team from the talks. On Monday, the committee announced that it would listen to oral submissions from stakeholders before discussing contentious proposals with the aim of breaking the existing deadlocks. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
Controversy surrounds a fatal incident in Kiambu involving a mother and her son whose bodies were found floating in a well shortly after both were engaged in a quarrel. The bodies have been retrieved from the well within their compound at Kiambu village, that's in Githunguri. Here is that report. To the villagers, by the way, the two had a heated argument after the son insisted on marrying a second wife. The loud exchange of words between mother and son was followed by a prolonged silence. And that prolonged silence triggered suspicion among the neighbors. And when the neighbors visited the homestead, that's the time they discovered that the bodies were there and alerted the police.
Tunamwita Mama Wambui, alikuja kwangu na akanielezea ile mambo ambayo anapitia kwa sababu ya ile mambo kijana wake ashaingia amejihuzu nayo. Kwa hivyo imekuwa ni jambo sio nzuri, lakini yote tunamwachia Mungu.
Tulishukuru wananchi kwa kutuelezea yale yaliyojiri hapa. Ikabidi tufanye uchunguzi wetu. Baada ya kumaliza uchunguzi wetu, tulipata miili mbili, moja mwanaume, moja mwanamke.
Ile ilifanya hao watu waingie kwa shimo. Hakuna mtu kwa saa hii ako na jabu la ile kitu ilifanya.
Now, the sacking of Ezra Chiloba, the former Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya, is still shrouded in mystery, even as a public speculation continues to soar. However, it's now emerging tonight that Chiloba's fate was sealed on the 8th of August of this year by a special board audit and risk assurance committee. Now, the team in its report said that Chiloba, alongside 9 others, had breached their obligations arising under the contract of service, calling for disciplinary action on account of gross misconduct.
Yesterday, a media dispatch from the Communications Authority Board announced Christopher Mboya as the Acting Director General of the Communication Authority of Kenya after former Director General Ezra Chiloba was given marching orders. The suspension was announced 2 years after his appointment to the docket following the retirement of former long-serving DG Francis Wangusi. Chiloba and 9 others were implicated in a report dated August 8th by a special board audit and risk assurance on the CEA staff mortgage scheme. The report says that there were questions on the veracity of the valuation reports for properties presented, a matter which was brought to the attention of the chairperson of the Staff Matters and Administration Committee. The loan book for the scheme as of June 2023 was 662.4 million shillings. The committee queried why the authority had not implemented board resolutions to have a pre-qualified panel of valuers. Against this backdrop, it became apparent that with the scheme beneficiaries using privately sourced valuers, there was a huge risk of collusion and subsequently inflation of property valuation. This led to the suspension of the processing of mortgage applications for 2 months until the comprehensive framework for the management of the mortgage scheme was in place. The report recommended disciplinary action on account of gross misconduct to be taken against the Director General Ezra Chiloba and 9 others over claims of abuse of the authority's mortgage scheme. The findings put the management on the spot for failing to put in place a comprehensive policy manual to guide the administration of CEA staff mortgage scheme. The audit further brought to light that staff mortgage was approved and granted without consideration of the contract term or term of services, thus leading to a loan default amounting to 28.9 million shillings.
Now, the former Communications Authority of Kenya Director General Ezra Chiloba is a man in the eye of the storm, as that story has told. Chiloba is finding himself in familiar waters as he left the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in a similar fashion. And just like at the IEBC, where he was accused of committing irregularities in procuring during the 2017 general poll, Chiloba, this time round, is accused of a raft of issues, including mismanaging a 662 million staff mortgage scheme at the Communication Authority, leading to his immediate suspension. Abdiaziz Hashim is following that report.
Once a lady's heartthrob owing to the presentation of the election results in 2017, earning him the nickname Chilo Babe, Chiloba finds himself yet again in the eye of a storm, less than 5 years after his disgraced exit from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC as its chief executive officer. 2 years after finding a new perching tree, the centre can no longer hold.
Critical phases here. Thank you very much, and I want to declare this event officially open.
The soft-spoken man has been suspended as the CEO of the Communication Authority of Kenya after its board, led by Chairperson Mary Mungai, accused him of mismanaging a 662 million staff mortgage scheme at the authority, led to his immediate suspension. During his short-lived tenure at the helm of the Communication Authority, Chiloba pushed for the registration of all SIM cards, a move that sparked mixed reactions in the country.
We've been working with operators while largely issuing directives to them to ensure that subscribers are properly registered for them to be able to access communication services.
Recently, Chiloba was the subject of public controversy after admonishing 6 television stations in the country for providing live coverage to the anti-government protests led by Azimio la Umoja coalition, threatening to revoke their licenses.
Media influences public perceptions in profound ways. This is a huge obligation that must be discharged with diligence for the greater good of our country.
Is Chiloba's possible exit from the Communication Authority a calculated political move, or is he just a victim of fate?
The timing of it all, I think there's a bit of politics in it, in terms of exactly his relationship with the previous government. But again, above all, I don't think it would be unfair for me to conclude that he was being shown the door because he was actively in the previous government. Politicians will always say that when you want to defend someone or you want to point out the reason as to why someone has been exited.
Apparently, he used a junior officer to approve it. It's him who was taking the facility, and it's a junior officer. He did not subject it to a higher authority to review and everything around that. So there is that. But then there is the political side of it. Even though it's important for us to say this, just because you have got something running after you, we should not then treat you like an egg when you make the next mistake. So it could be a mix-up of so many things. But unfortunately for him, he has got the IBC tag. We know that IBC has not been good for those who got to the apex. I think only Chebukati has come out to enjoy his retirement. Any other person who's come from IBC on retirement, it's either been hounded out and no one takes you in, which is a sad thing.
Chiloba has 2 years remaining on his contract, having been appointed in September 2021 for a 4-year renewable term. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
President William Ruto has called on the international community to mobilize and direct resources towards addressing impediments to sustainable development goals. The president says that aligning global capital with sustainable development goals is crucial for climate-positive growth.
President Ruto noted that many countries, especially in Africa, have been unable to implement SDG due to hindrances such as debt, inflation, climate shocks, and conflicts.
Data indicates that many countries are not making progress in the implementation of SDGs. The combination of multiple crises, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, extreme weather events, conflicts, and inflation has disrupted economies, leading to food and energy insecurity and impacting health and the cost of living.
The president made the remarks when he co-chaired the United Nations General Assembly Sustainable Development Goals Dialogue on applying science and technology innovation and data for transformative action alongside Slovenia President Nataša Pirc-Musar.
The time has come for the international community to mobilize adequate resources for common global finance mechanisms accessible to all, serving the global public good and unlocking the necessary private capital for research and development. For Africa in particular, such investment is urgently needed for evidence-based sustainable development and climate-positive growth.
Later, on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Ruto held talks with the president of Albania, Bajram Begaj, who expressed his country's interest in opening an embassy in Kenya. The president also met Slovakia President Zuzana Kaptuvo, who committed to supporting Kenya's e-mobility initiatives using the advanced e-battery technologies. They also agreed to partner to enhance Kenya's fertilizer production and cybersecurity capacity.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has sustained his criticism on government officials he accuses of exhibiting a condescending attitude when addressing Kenyans. Gachagua challenged leaders to remain focused and steady when addressing Kenyans who are bearing the burden of the high cost of living. Remarks appearing to target a section of senior government officials whose response to the public over the increased pump prices has attracted public condemnation. He made those remarks during the 36th General Conference of the International Scientific Council of the Trypanosomiasis, I got that one, Research and Control in the coastal city of Mombasa.
And I want to encourage all of us who are given the privilege to serve to do so with passion and commitment for the Kenyan people, for the African people. Again, and as I said on Sunday, those of us who have been given the privilege to serve, do so with humility. Have empathy with the people that you take care of. Respect those under you. Address them with respect and decorum. It costs you nothing. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Because people are people. So those of us who are here, who lead this or that organization, those placed under your care, please treat them with respect and dignity. If you serve the people of Kenya, those are your bosses, they are your employers. Dignify them by the way you address them. Even when there are challenges, remain calm and steady and address problems in a humane and humble manner so that those who are victims of that challenge can feel understood and empathized. That is a hallmark of leadership.
Meanwhile, the spouse of the Deputy President, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, has urged the society to encourage people suffering from mental health to open up and speak about their experiences. Pastor Dorcas has hailed the youth who continue to share their experiences on mental health with the public.
Statistics show that 1 in every 8 people in the world lives with a mental disorder. These disorders involve significant disturbances in thinking, emotional regulation, or behavior. Speaking during the opening of the Storytelling for the Mental Health Forum at Daystar University in Nairobi, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi argues that personal stories about mental health touch hearts, change minds, and offer hopes to those who are struggling silently.
We must come to a place where we discuss this mental health and we know it is an illness that needs attention, that needs to be treated.
Suicide cases are on the rise, with the World Health Organization estimating that it is the 4th leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds.
If that working community or the people who are around you, the environment around you, is not understanding, is judgmental, it will drive you crazy and it will actually drive you to your grave. But I'll ask you that as families, as communities around, we must become the supportive system to one another.
We need to embark on this journey of us expressing ourselves, of talking of the issues that we are going through, so that we may be able to be inspired, and most importantly, we may be united and share a vision where all of us are able to see mental health as we would see other physical health.
According to the report by the Mental Health Task Force in Kenya, at least 25% of outpatients and 40% of inpatients in different health facilities had a mental illness. Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Now on to a disturbing story now. A Kenya Air Force helicopter on night patrol in Lamu County crashed Monday night, killing all its occupants. The Kenya Defence Forces say that the crew and other military personnel were part of an air surveillance squadron intensifying day and night patrols and surveillance for the ongoing Operation Amani Boni. The leadership of KDF remains tight-lipped on the exact number of fatalities, but they're saying that they've notified and condoled with the families of the crew. It says that board of inquiry has been constituted and dispatched to the scene to establish the cause of the crash. The Amani Boni operations is a multi-agency approach towards flashing out Al-Shabaab terrorists, targeting locals and also security officers in Lamu. Kirinyaga County Governor Anne Waiguru says public participation remains one of the best avenues that can be used by counties to build public confidence. Governor Waiguru says that policy formulators must make room for technology and accommodate the input of the citizenry, particularly the youth whose future depend on the decisions being made today.
The Council of Governors Chair Anne Waiguru, flanked by other stakeholders in the innovation industry, have launched the Badiliko application engineered to improve public participation and direct communication between the youth and decision makers.
From the council perspective, the Badiliko app would like to use it for public participation, not for politics, but for engagement with regard to policies.
Because what is needed to be a productive member of a democratic society needs to be taught to youth specifically. And that's why an entrance point as Badiliko is a very, very good tool to start this, creating the awareness of youth. And it's not enough just being young.
Driven by the urge to solve perennial problems that plague the youth in governance, including apathy, radicalization, and limited economic opportunities, Ngatia Muhoya and his co-founder Mugambi Kinoti had a light bulb moment and came up with the Badiliko application.
With Badiliko, you can engage with your government like never before. You can provide feedback on policies, share your innovative solution to local challenges, debate with friends, and even propose new legislation. This app will ensure that your concerns and aspirations are not just heard, but acted upon.
During the launch, the youth were encouraged to take up leadership spaces and participate in policy-making decisions.
There is very little time that anyone will clap and tell you've done a good job. So even when you have done marvelous. Once in a while, they'll give you a thumbs up, or they'll just keep quiet until one small thing goes wrong. And the entire, even the ones who never speak, even the ones who all form this opinion about you.
The application, launched with the help of Council of Governors and the Hans Seidel Foundation, will kick off its operations and sensitization in Nairobi County with the aim of advancing to other counties. Seraphin Nairobi for Prime Edition.
Now, the county government of Nairobi has defended the Dishila County School Hot Lunch program despite all controversies that are surrounding it. Speaking at Olympic Primary School in Kibera Constituency, County Executive Committee member for Health, Suzanne Silantoi, said that the program launched last month is already making milestones and that there are plans underway to launch phase 2 of the program.
Not be able to still pay the 5 shillings. So nobody will be denied food because they don't have that 5 shillings. We are working directly with our head teachers to just identify specific needy cases of children who are completely unable to pay, and the county will still foot that cost and support them through various ways.
And issues on monitoring, we also do it jointly. Even as we stand here, there is a team right here in Kibera that is monitoring the feeding program from the Ministry of Education. They now connect the food that we gave them out last time and even in term 1. So even this one, as we roll out, every day our officers are on the ground to check on even cleanliness of our kitchens, to check on even the service, the way the food is being served here, the kind of even utensils.
Onto the corridors of justice. The Shanzu Law Courts on Tuesday released 2 men suspected to be operating a drugs syndicate in Kilifi County. Muganga Ruwange and Dennis Shere were released on a bond of 200,000 shillings each, with a surety of a similar amount or a cash bail of 100,000 each. The suspects were arrested last week, linked to a bang hole worth 9.4 million shillings in an abandoned Prado involved in an accident in Kilifi County. The prosecution had filed for an application to detain the duo on the basis that they would interfere with investigations and that they were also a flight risk. The Shanzu Senior Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shihanda, however, ruled that there was no evidence adduced by the prosecution to give credence to the claims of interfering with witnesses of being at flight risk. This matter will come up for mention on the 4th of October for pre-trial.
Kwamba kuwanyima watuhumiwa uhuru katika hatua hii itakuwa jambo lisilo na mantiki na lisilo na haki katika jamii iliyo wazi na ya kidemokrasia kwa msingi wa heshima ya binadamu, usawa na uhuru. Napata kwamba maombi ya upande wa mashtaka ni kama hekaya za bunwasi tu. Baada ya kuzingatia mambo yote husika, sijahisi kulazimishwa kuwanyima watuhumiwa dhamana.
Senate Speaker Amason Kingi has challenged senators to redouble their collective efforts to ensure pending business is considered before the end of the session as the House resumed its sittings Tuesday from a 5-week-long recess. Kingi had also tasked the Devolution and Environment Committees to interrogate action points from the Devolution Conference and the African Climate Summit, all held when the House was on recess, and develop necessary legislative interventions to actualize them. The senators have thrown their weight behind a bill that, among others, seeks to introduce sign language in schools to integrate children with hearing disabilities. The bill is sponsored by Senators Margaret Kamar and Crystal Asige.
Honorable Senators, as we embark on Part 5 of the Senate calendar, our in-tray is rather full already. A number of bills, motions, petitions, and statements are pending consideration. I urge that we redouble our collective efforts in a bid to conclude the business by the end of the session in December 2023. I also urge the Senate Majority Leader and the Senate Minority Leader to do all that is necessary within the standing orders so that the said business is fast-tracked.
Deaf children are very easy to handle because they can see, they understand everything around the environment by seeing, but they need to communicate. So we are also proposing that in the teacher training institutions, a course on sign language should be undertaken. Just the way we say your second language is Kiswahili, take a third language called sign language.
Madam Speaker, this bill is just bringing about inclusivity. By saying that, I mean we are going to remove the communication barrier. You know, sometimes you're with somebody who's deaf, you cannot communicate beyond just saying hi. Madam Speaker, somebody would want to share their stories. And since we cannot understand that, we are not able to communicate with such a person. But if this was in school, Madam Speaker, when we are in school, when we are in primary school, when we are in high school, it will be very easy to communicate with anybody. We'll be able to have...
The African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption Kenya chapter has opposed a proposed amendment to the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act that could see the public officials with a tainted past hold public office again. The caucus says that the amendment will claw back all the gains made in the war against graft and will consequently violate Kenya's constitutional principles.
A proposal to amend the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act to allow for people who have been convicted with graft to run or hold public office has triggered sharp reactions from anti-graft crusaders who argue that it will water down gains made in the war against graft.
If you are convicted for contravening any provisions within Chapter 6 of the Constitution, then you're not eligible for appointment or election in any public office.
The caucus says the amendment proposed by Homa Bay Town MP Peter Kaluma is inconsistent with the Constitution of Kenya.
Progress. We have the partnership of the civil society network that we shall be able to do it for the country.
For stakeholders to consider the potential consequences of these amendments carefully. Such amendments could undermine the effectiveness of the Act in deterring corruption and prosecuting offenders.
They're now calling on the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee to recuse themselves from proceedings entertaining the proposal.
How do we move away from the idea of mischaracterizing this theft from the public through these anti-corruption crusades and whatever, and call thieves by their name and put the OCS at the center and the police station at the center of these issues.
The caucus also wants the police to play an active role in dealing with brazen acts of corruption. Kasicha Namasha, Prime Edition.
Our story brings us to our first break right here on Prime Edition. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Visit the Nairobi International Trade Fair from 25th September to 1st October at the Jamhuri Park Showground. Come learn, network, and have lots of fun. There will be innovations, farm and dairy produce, livestock, trade and sales, technology, SMEs exhibitions, funfair, food and entertainment. All are welcome. For the gate charges, perimeter, adults 300 Kenyan shillings and children 250. Special parties, adults 250, children 200.
Who is this? Turkana County Government welcomes you to the Ekales Cultural Center in Lodwar for the 7th edition of the Turkana Tourism and Cultural Festival. From the 12th to the 14th of October 2023. Come, experience the cradle of mankind. Its unmatched beauty from the beaches of Lake Turkana to the oil fields of Lokichar. Live on Channel 1, Radio Taifa and Turkana Service.
Welcome back. The National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has urged the National Assembly leadership to forge unity and collaboration among its members for smooth discharging of their parliamentary duties. Speaking while opening the National Assembly leadership retreat, Wetangula said that the House leadership plays a crucial role, very critical, in the discharge of the mandate of the National Assembly. The Assembly leadership led by Kimani Ichung'wah and Opiyo Wandayi emphasized on the need for synergy in legislation.
As leaders, you carry greater responsibility than your ordinary colleagues who don't hold these positions. In my long, illustrious career as a member of parliament, there is not a single day, and I say this again, there's not a single day the Speaker came to the House and didn't find me. There's not a single day that the Speaker left the House when I'm not there.
We have been able to process quite a number of bills, on average about 1 bill per month. Very many motions, both private members' motions and other business that has come before us and before the House Business Committee.
Let's also endeavor to give our chairpersons and vice chairpersons easy time. Let's support them to be able to steer these committees, knowing fully well that if we succeed, all of us succeed.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has vowed to crack the whip on errant officers serving at the Busia and Malaba one-stop border post to rid the critical trade arteries of corruption. Kindiki says that government is keen on adequate service provision at the border points, warning that corrupt officers should ship up or ship out.
The CS who spoke at Amukura during the official opening of administration units within Teso North and Teso South also put rogue police officers and local administration officers on notice, warning them against exploiting Kenyans who seek government services.
Wazee wetu na vijana wamepata matatizo, wake zao wamekawia bila kupata vitambulisho vya Kenya. Mimi nataka niamrishe watu wote ambao wameolewa hapa Kenya, na inadhibitisha kupitia machief wetu na assistant chiefs na viongozi ya kwamba wameolewa hapa Kenya, wameishi hapa Kenya, wapate vitambulisho vyao bila matatizo yoyote.
Meanwhile, Narok Governor Patrick Ole Ntutu has defended the recent increase in pump prices, attributing the increase to disruptions in the global market. Speaking while launching road projects in Emuru Dikir and Kilgoris constituency, Ntutu urged Kenyans to exercise patience as Kenya Kwanza administration would steady the ship.
Watu wengi wanazungumzia mambo ya mafuta. Mambo ya hali ya maisha imekuwa juu. Mimi nataka na niko na matangazo mzuri. Na mimi naelezea nyinyi kama watu wangu na watu kama watu ya Kenya Kwanza, ya kwamba mafuta, sisi hatuna mafuta kwa Kenya, tunanunua kutoka nje. Sasa kitu ya mtu ile siku ataweka bei atakuuliza.
Elsewhere, the judiciary is seeking 100 million shillings to power law courts using solar in a bid to cut expenditure amid a rise in cost of electricity.
They've also shared with us quite a few challenges, one of which is the fact that they do not have a children's holding facility around here. And apparently for the children who are found in conflict with the law, the nearest remand home is in Nakuru, which is quite some distance. And so that, of course, affects access to justice, and we have promised under the auspices of the NCAJ to ensure that that challenge at least is addressed.
In the meantime, Maragua Member of Parliament Mary Wamaua led residents in demonstrations at Kenol and Maragua towns to condemn what she termed as politicization of water issues within the county to the detriment of locals.
Na tunakuambia uondoe hiyo barua, na kama huondoi, ule alikupea kazi atatuondolea hiyo barua, ndio Muswasko ikuwe under the county government, ndio governor sio wa barua tena, ni wa kazi, atufiksie maneno ya maji.
And a bill seeking to regulate the real estate is set to be tabled at the Senate, proposing stiff penalties for rogue operators defrauding Kenyans.
We are losing, of course, genuine investors in terms of people who people want to invest in Kenya. They don't have, they cannot invest because of this kind of companies whereby this happens because there's no regulations in this sector.
Finally, residents of Machakos with vision impairment have a reason to smile after the Kenyan ambassador to Israel, Samuel Foita, secured visual aids amounting to 1.2 million shillings for 188 students drawn from various schools within Machakos County. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mongai.
Now, when he joined the military as an engineer cadet, little did he know that he would be later on tasked with being the president's aide-de-camp, a job that would entail being within a foot of President Mwai Kibaki at any given time, keeping the former president schedule and ensuring his safety were just about some of his duties. Retired Colonel Geoffrey Kingangi is our guest in this week's edition of Military Tales.
We visit retired Colonel Geoffrey Muturi Kingangi at his home in Kilimani, Nairobi. Retired Colonel was born in Gashoka, Mbere South Sub-County of Embu County, the seventh child of a family of 13 siblings.
I come from Embu, Mbere South Sub-County. I'm a constituency in Gashoka. I went to school in Genge Primary School. It's a rural school. So in primary school, there was a kid from our family in every class. So once you go to Form 1, the following year there's somebody going to Form 1. I went to school, to secondary school in Chicago.
Despite school fees challenges in his early education life, Colonel Kingangi was determined and studied to become a civil engineer.
Thereafter I went to Kenya Polytechnic to do a diploma in building and civil engineering. After that, I worked with the Ministry of Works in the architectural department. That is the time now I traveled Kenya, supervised project for the police, and the office of the president. We flew all over the place.
The military then came calling and was one of the few chosen to join the Kenya Army as a cadet.
The military were looking for engineers and technically qualified people to start the now corps of engineers. It was just beginning. So they had architects, all manner of people. So I was recruited from the office. So I joined the military as a building and civil engineer. Thereafter, upon graduation, I joined the Royal School of Military Engineers in London to study combat engineering. I came back and I was deployed as a combat engineer in the Corps of Engineers, specifically 10 Engineers Battalion in Nairobi. I was an instructor in building trades.
He would serve in numerous foreign missions in the country and beyond.
I was again sent to India to the School of Military Intelligence to study combat engineering, combat intelligence. On return, I now had two specialties. I was a combat engineer and I was a combat intelligence officer. I also served in the United Nations missions in Sierra Leone for a year. I served in United Nations mission in DRC Congo for a year, and I also participated in several special assignments.
He would later rise up the ranks to become the head of military intelligence in the army.
I got my promotions and I ended up in the headquarters of Kenya Army as the SO1 intelligence, that is Staff Officer 1 intelligence, meaning I was in charge of intelligence in the whole of Kenya Army. It's interesting to note that while I was in charge of intelligence, that is when the 2007 and 2008 post-election violence happened. So I was privy, I participated, I was in the background, and it was very momentous and important time for anyone who is in the service to be actively serving in that time. You learn so much.
His diligent work saw him promoted to the Secretary of the National Security Committee, where he would later end up at State House.
Thereafter again, I was assigned and attached to Office of the President and Ambassador Mudaura as Head of Civil Service to be the Military Secretary to the National Security Advisory Committee. So it is a top decision-making committee for security, apart from now Cabinet and the President himself. So I became the Secretary and I served there for 3 years.
His biggest assignment came in 2009 when he was appointed as the aide-de-camp of the country's third president, Mwai Kibaki.
From there that I was spotted and attached to the State House to be the ADC. That was 2009 to 2010, thereabouts. In 2010, we participated in the campaigns for the 2010 Constitution, the campaigns for the Constitution, the referendum, and obviously the promulgation. That's a proud moment, and I think it's a landmark for Kenya. I was proud to have been serving at that time.
As Kingangi notes, the work of an aide-de-camp was very engaging and entailed more than just securing the head of state.
The aide-de-camp is you are there to assist the president to perform his duties, particularly public duties, which means you alert that he will read a speech. You must know where the speech is. You are allowed to know that at a certain time he will be moving to another meeting. And you have to be alert to that. And you have to know what to do to make sure the meeting ends in time. You are allowed to know if you're flying an helicopter Helicopters don't fly at night. But more importantly is that the ADC is a quick link. It's like a hotline to the defense headquarters. Finally, is the president's safety. When you're standing behind the president, you have the view of everybody in front of the president. The president is busy talking, or he's seated there, so you send a signal so that that fella is intercepted before he gets too near.
Kingangi remembers an incident in the year 2012 when he had to secure the then President Mwai Kibaki from a raging inferno when the late president led the nation in burning ivory that had been seized from poachers.
I think one time we were burning ivory somewhere down, I think it was Savo National Park. Now people don't know that ivory doesn't burn. It actually doesn't burn. So when you see flames coming out, there is an engine somewhere pumping diesel under the ivory. So in this case, the president was given the torch. He tried once, twice. So people panicked and said, Ongeza. So more fuel was pumped. But the president was busy lighting. The escort commander who is in front of him tried to snatch the torch from him. He refused. And the fire was becoming bigger. I had to move around quickly and stand in front of him. But it was so quick, so quick that it would have been a disaster. But the fire never went far. Of course, that was it. So the safety.
He says many people didn't know that the late President Mwai Kibaki had a bias for perfection and doing things properly.
I learned, even in the military and serving with the president, that you have to do the proper thing all the time. Do the proper thing. Don't worry about the consequences. You cannot go wrong.
As the man tasked with being the president's shadow, that meant he had to skip several personal engagements and had little time for his family.
It can strain the family. It can strain the family because I think what is most straining is not even the immediate family, because you are with them. But you have your mother and your father and whatever, things are happening, there's a burial, there's a wedding, there's a this, and you completely miss. So in such cases, I would have to send somebody to say ADC could not come.
Colonel Kingangi would later resign from the force to join politics seeking the Mboya South MP seat in the year 2012, but was unsuccessful in his first stint.
When I went to politics, I was very mistaken because I thought it's like the military. I'll tell people this is what we are doing, let's go, they will do it. They don't have managed to transform from a military to a politician. The people in the village, they come as individuals to Mheshimiwa. You have to stop and listen. And funny enough, you learn a lot when you listen. And I think it has made me a better person even in the family.
He would later be appointed as the chairman of the National Cereals and Produce Board the same year, but later resigned to try his hands at politics again in 2017. This time round, he successfully became the Mboya South MP, a post he served for 5 years till the 2022 elections, where he chose not to defend his seat to join President William Ruto's campaign trail. A family man with children living abroad, Kingangi also enjoys singing in the church choir and reading.
Retired Colonel Honorable Geoffrey Kingangi has served the country for decades as a military officer and also as a legislator. And he notes that the future of the country is bright if we all pull together as Kenyans.
Just hours after we recorded this interview, retired Colonel Geoffrey Kingangi was appointed by President William Ruto as the Deputy National Security Advisor for External Affairs.
For Military Tales, I'm Ben Troy Njoy.
Well, we are, is it a break? Taking a short break, but what I'm sure of is Daniel Wahome is on standby to bring us the latest in sports. But before that, we'll have Wairimu Njenga, who's back in the country, to give us the day's business.
Na Lati Game ikiwa ni ngurumo ya pikipiki sasa inaelekea mitaani. Ikiwa mshindi wetu wa leo wa pikipiki ni Joseph Kamau. Delivery tutaifanya. Zimefika Ruiro, nami yako Ogio. Kifungu ndio hiyo yako.
Nilikuwa nimejaribu siku kama 3 hivi. Nimeshida hii pikipiki Honda.
Amekabidhiwa mpaka stakabadhi zote. Yote inafanyika katika Lucky Game. Mita na star 570. Shinda pesa moto.
Welcome back. My name is Wairimu Njenga. We take a look at today's business news. Thank you, Tom, for welcoming me back. Now, crypto traders are calling for a review of the digital asset tax barely a month into its implementation, arguing the 3% tax on the value of the digital asset being transferred or exchanged instead of the profits is punitive and threatens the nascent sector. Alan Kaikai, Director Legal at Blockchain Association of Kenya, says coupled to the lack of regulations may hinder the growth of services associated with blockchain and crypto by crippling innovation.
1st September saw the government implement the digital asset tax that must be paid on earnings obtained from the transfer or trade of digital assets at a rate of 3%. Barely a month in, stakeholders maintain it is eroding gains in the fast-paced fintech sector.
And that, coupled up with the 5-day remittance window, just makes it very impossible for a lot of guys to operate.
I think there's, as you pointed out, it's a new age. It's a different asset class altogether. It allows for a store of value, a means of exchange, and a means of earning. And I think providing an additional access to a different market would only boost circulation.
Further, they argue that though mandated to regulate crypto, the Capital Markets Authority's sandbox is yet to fully onboard cryptos. The global market capitalization for crypto assets stands at $1.7 trillion, according to Statsia, which is more than 50 times the total market capitalization for all East African bourses combined, which stood at $30.05 billion in the last quarter.
The sandbox to date has never onboarded any crypto-facing project. So the projects that have gone through the sandbox are other fintechs and crowdfunding projects, but we've not seen a crypto exchange, whether centralized or decentralized, or a P2P platform, or any form of platform that directly interacts with NFTs or cryptocurrencies in the sandbox.
CMA has, however, raised caution that crypto assets are not yet entirely safe for investors because they are highly volatile and susceptible to hacking.
After the World Coin hearings was that they should deliberately create a framework for onboarding digital assets and crypto technologies in addition to other novel technologies.
Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, the government plans to review the Coffee Bill 2019 to allow multiple licensing of coffee farms. Crop Principal Secretary Harsama Kello says the bill will be reviewed after millers and agents complained that they risk losing up to 200 billion shillings in missed revenue and investments.
The Coffee Bill 2019 underwent through the third reading at the National Assembly. The bill, among other things, calls for single licensing of coffee farms, in a bid to reduce coffee sales in trading. The government now says it is ready to make amendments into the bill to allow farms have multiple licenses.
The regulations of 2019, a person cannot be a miller, cannot be a buyer, and cannot be a marketer at the same time. So that is the regulation of 2019, clause 11, which does not allow millers to be value chain actors I've just mentioned. All right? So we are going to solve those problems.
If the amendments are adopted, the Coffee Bill Directorate can issue a single farm with milling, marketing, and buying licenses separately.
Coffee is going down because the investors in the industry are not given freedom, free hand to develop their own resources.
The millers say they have already set up subsidiary farms for each license, and single licensing will see them lose up to 200 billion shillings and retrench over 18,000 workers.
People own the commercial millers, the estates that they are managing. The owners have invested close to $200 billion. In this case, you can't just wake up one morning, you deny these people licenses, and they have coffee on the farms. What are they supposed to do?
I am the one who is financing the farmer, and you want to control the money. How do I get my money? And you are saying that we are going to send all this money to the farmer, which we agree. But will the farmer pay me?
The millers want the Agriculture and Food Authority to issue them with temporary permits to mill 20,000 bags of coffee that are yet to be processed due to the licensing stalemate.
The millers are holding several bags of coffee belonging to the farmers, not yet milled. So we have listened to them and definitely will make a decision on those problems.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua last month promised farmers a 2 billion shillings kitty to compensate them for any unmilled coffee caused by the licensing standoff. Benson Druba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, KNCCI, has embarked on a sensitization program that seeks to uplift its members from the economic turmoil they experienced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. KNCCI Nairobi Director Cynthia Nyawera says the move will help rally efforts towards harmonizing bilateral trade relations between Kenya and other countries.
The Kenya National Chambers of Commerce and Industry says there is a need to create a pro-business environment with a strong rule of law, feedback channels that ensure that policies facilitating business operations and regulatory sandboxes allow business innovation.
We need to do capacity building so that what is decided at the national level gets to the community level, gets to the SME level, without bureaucracies.
Additionally, they urge the government to abolish policies that hamper the progress of the agriculture sector. KNCCI says this will help the country achieve food security.
If we can have technology applied into the indigenous knowledge, it means Kenya will not beg for food. Africa is not going to beg for food.
KNCCI is also calling on the youth to take up opportunities in industrialization that will build globally competitive teams comprising local and global talent to reduce the cases of youth being exploited in overseas job platforms.
We also have our EPZ zones, our SEZ zones, our aggregation centers. If you go to a place like Tatu City, already there's a lot going on there, a lot of manufacturing companies that are coming up. So there is a lot of labor force that is needed in Kiambu County, the way we are going. And I'm urging all the young girls and all the young men to first look around them.
Nduta Mokami for Prime Edition.
Now, the National Geological Survey has so far identified 970 key mineral sites in all 47 counties in the country. Mining Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya says the government plans to increase revenue from the mining sector from the current 1% of the gross domestic product to 10% in the next 3 years.
Records indicate that the mining sector's contribution to Kenya's gross domestic product has hovered between 0.7 and 2.1% in 5 years through 2022. With reforms well underway, the government hopes to improve revenues from the sector through structured interventions.
We are also identifying key value addition centers across the country because we are carrying out, we are doing a value addition and mineral processing policy so that we can reduce the amount of minerals that are exported raw.
Kenya has proven deposits of titanium in Kwale, gold in Western Kenya, and coal at Miu Basin, Kitui County. In addition, the country is believed to hold significant deposits of copper, niobium, manganese, and rare earth metals, which largely remain underexploited, dwarfing the mining sector's contribution to the national economic output.
The mineral value addition and processing policy will help us to create jobs, but also to address the value chain in the mining sector.
Part of the sector's revival plans includes empowering artisanal miners and weeding out unscrupulous actors.
We also want to organize the artisanal miners into cooperative societies so that they can access training and facilitate them and link them with financial institutions so that they can have proper equipment. We will be able to cancel over 1,500 licenses that have been inactive.
Total earnings from mining production last year increased 16.6% to 35.2 billion shillings, but experts predict the country still has a huge untapped potential.
Well, that marks the end of business news tonight. Sports Update is up next with Daniel Wahome.
These are the moments we live for every Friday as we catch up with the world of football.
Manchester City go in front.
With your favorite stars in rivalries like no other that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Learn a few tricks that keep you ahead of the game and spice it all with unforgettable moments on Dunda Dunda. On Saturday, you're in for another treat as we rock your weekend with all sporting disciplines, bringing you insights on what's happening behind the scenes as we share players and athlete stories, preparations, and celebrate their achievements.
Charging to the line! Is it going to be a world record? Yes, it is! She smashed it!
Whatever angle you look at, we've got you covered. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to Prime Edition Sport. Now, Sports Cabinet Secretary Babu Namwamba has awarded the National Rugby Sevens team Kenya shillings 3 million following their qualification to the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. Kenya qualified for the Games after trouncing South Africa 17-12 in the final played on Sunday at the Harare Sports Club in Zimbabwe.
In the just concluded event, Shujaa won all their matches in Harare, Zimbabwe, beating Namibia 51-0, Burkina Faso 26-0, Zimbabwe 35-0, Zimbabwe 35-10, and South Africa 17-12 to signify a step in the right direction in the rebuilding process following the team's relegation from the Elite World Rugby Series. Speaking in the event, Sports CS Babu Namwamba stated that the government will invest in a high-performance training facilities to put the players in an environment that gives the best opportunity to compete with the best globally.
They say to be the best, you must beat the best. There's no way you're going to be the best if you don't beat the best. And so, you are here as the best because you have beaten the best.
Sports PS engineer Peter Toom added that the ministry is committed to facilitating sportsmen and women to create a conducive environment to better prepare for the next year's Olympics.
You tell me that you are watching the game as I played, sometimes I get embarrassed. You know, say for athletics myself, I don't watch any other game. Even if you dragged me to go and watch football, you would most likely find me yawning and looking at my phone. But when it comes to athletics, because that is the only thing I know. So courtesy of you, Waziri, I'm also beginning to enjoy sporting activities like that.
The CS presented the Shujaa team with the ministry's support of 3 million Kenya shillings as a reward for qualifying for Paris Olympics. Shujaa is the second team from Kenya to qualify for the Paris Olympics 2024, with Kenya Queens Malkia Strikers being the first to secure the ticket. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Congratulations, Shujaa. Now, the national women's soccer team, the Harambee Starlets, jetted out of the country for Cameroon ahead of their upcoming two-legged 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, which will be played on Friday this week and on Tuesday next week in Nairobi. The first match is in Douala. The team will jet back home on Sunday for their second leg match.
Starlets tactician Bedlin Ademba named 23 players as part of traveling team for 2024 Women Africa Cup of Nations against Cameroon, which is set to be played on Friday this week at Douala, Cameroon. The squad features a blend of informed local-based players and experienced foreign-based players. Noteworthy addition to the squad is Ezra Chiloba, who makes a return to the national team for the first time since 2018. Should Harambee Starlets emerge as aggregate winners on the two-legged qualifiers, they will face either Gabon or Botswana in the second round, scheduled between 27 November and December 5th, 2023. The victor of second round will secure automatic qualification for 2024 Africa Women's Cup of Nations due in Morocco. The team will jet back home on Sunday for their second leg match on Tuesday next week. King Orimwangi for Prime Edition Sports.
Now, Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba has handed over the construction of the Talanta Sports City at the Jamhuri Sports Complex and the renovation of the Nyayo, Kasarani and Kipchego Stadia to the Kenya Defence Forces. The move is aimed at enhancing Kenya's chances of successfully hosting the 2027 AFCON finals after placing a joint bid with Tanzania and Uganda.
Namwamba pointed out that the Talanta Sports City Stadium, which will have the capacity to hold 50,000 fans, will be completed in 2 years.
We developed this new stadium as part of a comprehensive master plan, which we are calling Sports and Arts Infrastructure Master Plan.
The CS also mentioned that after the completion of the stadia, national soccer teams will have a convenient training ground.
We start this journey aware of that history of disappointment. And that history of disappointment has fed the Kenyan public with a lot of skepticism, with a lot of doubts. And I know that as we start this journey, many Kenyans may not be entirely convinced that this journey will reach its destination.
Sports Principal Secretary Peter Toom hailed the government for its commitment to promote sport in the country.
The reason we are here is to ensure that these facilities that we had earmarked to be able to prepare for our competition with the two other East African countries are ready for use in the next 2 years.
After the handover, Defence Principal Secretary Patrick Mariru promised that the construction and renovation of the stadium will be completed as planned based on the standards required by FIFA.
The assurance from the Ministry of Defence is that we shall do this, and not only do it, but do it within the time, probably even less than the time that is allocated.
The move is to prepare Kenya adequately as they are bidding to host the AFCON 2027 alongside Tanzania and Uganda. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Well, now moving on to golf, where Hazel Kuria, Arush Vara and Kusharga Sharma were among the top performers who joined the Junior Golf Foundation of the US Kids Golf Tour series that landed at the Thika Sports Club. Over 136 junior golfers took part in the competition across the 14 age categories.
Kushaga Shalma was the best in the boys 15 to 18 years category with impressive score of 79. Aiden Muturi and Jabari Ongwae finished second and third respectively in the competition that attracted 7 golfers. In the girls 15 to 18 years category, Hazil Kuria emerged as the best despite missing her personal target by 2 shots. Cherissa Wachira had a rough day but finished third with a score of 93.
I was able to capitalize on the par 3s. My putting was there. I just tried to stay focused, do what I could, make pars when I can, if not just try for bogey, but I think there's still more I need to do. I'm not too disappointed. It could have been better, but it also could have been worse.
In the boys 12 years category, Amma Shah was in a class of her own after carding 72 ahead of second place Adiana Gachora and Justin Ngera, who tied on 81.
I started with a birdie, and then the rest of the 9 wasn't the best, but my other 9 was very good. Before I started my round, I always tried to be positive, but when I started, since I wasn't playing well, I didn't think I was going to play it as good as I did.
In other result, Kanana Mudomi was the best in the girls 11 to 12 years category with 77 gross points. She was followed by Nikini Pasha with 82 points and Biakana Dave with 94 gross points. Arwish Vara emerged as the winner in the boys 13 to 14 years category with a score of 82. He was 1 stroke ahead of Nathan Mwangi with 83 points, with the average Rajput and Savisoni tied on 84. Over 136 junior golfers took part in the competition across 14 age categories. Kingori Mwangi for Prime Edition Sports.
And so that's the sport for tonight. And I know there is going to be a lot of focus on the stadia. And remember that there are regulations that are publicly available as to how a stadia should look like. And I think the move by the government tells a lot about what's been going behind the scenes. And Tom can actually tell you that last night, the Cabinet Secretary said that there's a master plan for infrastructure development. So let's see how this goes down. With or without the bid, we must get the right infrastructure.
But I thought you talked about a launch today in the morning or something like that.
Yes. So it wasn't a launch. It was the handover.
The handover
for facilities.
Okay.
And so we just did them right for global. And the thing is, publicly available information about how stadia should look like, and that's a basis for what the ministry is using.
Okay.
Yeah, because when CAF come here and they tell you you don't have A and B, it's very simple, and it's a publicly available document. So we are not talking about, things left, right, and center. It's a publicly available document as to what a stadium should look like. And also remember that we lost the bid to host the 2025 World Athletics Championships. Because we probably missed 1 or 2 things.
Floodlights.
So Kasarani, you can say floodlights and something else. But it's just 2 things that you miss in a stadium, but just get them right.
And then
that's
you're
it.
ready to go,
Yeah, keep it simple. Some will say it looks stupid, but keep it simple. The fans will love it.
The fans will love it.
Okay.
And you'll be stress-free.
And you'll be stress-free. And we'll welcome the world.
Talking of stress-free, Carol, there is a story earlier where the spouse of the deputy president was telling people that, speak up. Because there's a lot of mental issues. If you look at schools, if you look at the youth, if you
They're
look
bottling
at,
up a
if you
lot.
look at the people in the office, if you look at the people on the field, everybody, there's a sense in which mental health, is very central. What's your experience when you hear that word mental health?
I think first of all, this conversation is timely, and I'm glad that the spouse of the deputy president is talking about it. Because there's a lot of pressure, of course, that comes with life. With studying, such as a young age. The curriculum, and I'm glad that we changed to CBC. At least it's more accommodative. We're seeing young children venture into areas where they are good at. And that's actually offers some relief.
By the way, there's a lot of stigma around mental health issues. A couple of years back, if somebody is going under some form of depression, they keep it in file 13 because they don't want to be mistaken to be crazy. You know,
Sure.
but now you're seeing even the highest office on the land saying, no, let's have a conversation around it. All right? Let's put the stigma aside. Stress is stress. It's a mental health issue. So I'm just wondering for you, Holmes, in this journey of life, how do you then, you know, build a mental muscle to withstand those pressures that come through? Because you look like you're a strong guy. You look like you don't have stress.
No, the whole thing is this.
Yeah.
Everyone knows remember that we are 7-8 billion people on the planet. Everyone has got their own thing.
Yeah.
But nobody exists in a vacuum.
True.
So we just need to go back, just do some crazy rap theories here and there.
Yeah.
Where they said, let's go back to where we came from. We came from a society. You know, they say that the moment we call it the hood, it means that the neighborhood doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that means the hood is just a place where people are living together.
Yeah.
But if there is a neighborhood, it means that they are neighbors and you'll be supported. So that means we just need to get back to, especially in this part of the world, where you grew up together, where if you had, say, a good function, there's a wedding family, there is a newborn child, there is this, everyone came for the happy things.
Yeah.
And when there was bereavement in a family, everyone came together and worked together, and you stood together for it.
Yeah.
So the thing is, let's just bring back neighbor into the hood. Let's not say I live in a hood. Let's be a
And
neighborhood.
speak up.
And everyone will know.
Yeah.
Because when you've got the neighborhood, then everyone works together and we know what to help, and not everything will go out.
African socialism. It sounds a bit like
African socialism.
Yeah.
National paper number 10 of 1965.
Every person has a responsibility to the community, and in return, the community has an obligation.
He's the only one who read it in cyclo-style font. The rest of us read it on a PDF document. He's the one who read it in the original form, Tom Mboya. And interesting enough, it was actually actualized by his namesake.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to that. Let's just all talk together. And you know what? Whether it's here in the office, let's just say, I mean, if I've got a cold or Idnimo's got something here, or like when Tom was unwell, let's stand together. And that way you'll know that you've got proper backup all the time.
And make it a lifestyle, and you talk about mental health, even in your place of work, at home.
So that you're not stressed. You're not stressed that if you've got a flu, I can't read the business for you.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing. Anyway, you very strong points there, and I think, in summary, if we don't address, those systemic and what the top office is calling structural issues, then it's a bit like pouring water on a plant that's not in the soil. Yeah. So it's good. It's good that even government is a plant
that is not in the soil.
Yeah.
That is watering the soil.
No, you're watering the plant when you've not planted it in the soil.
Okay.
We got to go.
Okay. Wise man has said it.
We got to go.
Have a good night. Have a good night. We're out.
Thank you for watching on behalf of the team. In the back end, they are whispering something on my ear that you have to go. So thank you. My name is Tom Mboya. This is Daniel Wahome.
Marimu Njenga.
And she's back.
See you tomorrow, and thank you for welcoming me back. Appreciate
Good night.
Yes,
Good night.
Karibu Kenya. Ikiwa ni ngurumo ya pikipiki sasa inaelekea mitaani. Ikiwa mshindi wetu wa leo wa pikipiki ni Joseph Kamau. Delivery
tutaifanya. Zimefika Ruiru nami yako